here we are.
Brooklyn Bugs, we are edible insect ambassadors. We work to raise awareness and appreciation for edible insects and help explain why the UN's FAO endorses them to address food security and sustainability. But the idea of just changing your diet and eating something that has such an extreme visceral reaction is a bit of a reach. And so we love to work interdisciplinarily with artists and musicians and writers and creatives to help employ the fine arts and visual arts and creative arts in order to translate this idea and messaging to help to normalize it and really get people to realize that the majority of the world's nations are already eating insects. It's smart food. It can be delicious. So what are we missing out on? So that's a big part of what we are doing. And I think it's just so fortunate that we've been able to tour around and work with a lot of different museums and universities. And so we're looking forward to hopefully resuming our global tour later this year and definitely next year.
Can I caution you away from the slogan for whatever restaurant you guys make of using the slogan, "It can be delicious"?
Thank you. Yes, right. It is delicious, right? Well, the reasoning is that people presume that insects are going to taste gross. And so when I say it can be delicious, it's because they think they just automatically presume it's going to be gross.
Right.
And so they're a bit, but you're absolutely right. I should actually rephrase that from now on. Maybe, thank you.
With a lot of onions and garlic.
Yeah, well,
it can be palatable.
That is, when you bring that up, it's such a tricky thing because so much of we've talked on the show before, so much of taste has much less to do with the tongue and taste buds than what your average person would assume, what it consciously feels like, and so much more of it is the presentation and the atmosphere and the story that the chef's telling about it, and everything else all leads into the experience of enjoying it. And you know, like the I don't know, there's studies where they put like red dye and white wine and have sommeliers describe it, and they use words typically associated with red wine when describing the taste of it and just that sort of thing. So I think that and this kind of gets into cultural entomology, which you guys are all into, which is that's in a culture where this is, I would say, probably 98% of people are kind of maybe naturally off-put by the idea of eating insects, are unfamiliar with it.
Oh no, your numbers are way off, Shane.
You think it's higher?
No, far lower than that. And I think that there are
really?
a lot of wild presumptions made because you're gonna have to excuse that to white America. Because Anglo-Westerners have a very narrow view, and eating is very culturally. There's like a cultural status associated with eating, and unfortunately, the Anglo-Western world have stigmatized the act of eating insects. And I preface Anglo-Western because Native Americans were eating insects way before we were here. And so it'd be erroneous for me to say what the Western world.
Right.
So I would say that.
All right, 98% of white people. Can we?
No, I would even drop that down to like 90%, because there are the new self-coined foodies out there that love trying new food and experiences. Plus, you have to think about all the people that are concerned about the environmentalism and sustainability. And so when you clump those two groups together, I'm going to say that 20 to 25% of Americans are at least open to the idea when actually presented with insects as food.
Open? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in Brooklyn too, which is like a little bit of a echo chamber of it's like Barrett and I are in Wisconsin, and I think it's like
where I've been. I I got a grant to work at UW-Madison and also Montana State, Purdue University, IUPUI, a lot of Midwestern states that invite me, who you think of as cattle and pork country. So why would they invite someone working with edible insects to go and talk? It's fascinating.
That's encouraging to hear. I'm a fan. I've eaten insects in Barrett's lab. I'm into it. I want more people eating insects. I think that the majority of people have never even like heard of that as an idea. I don't know. It just seems like a little bit of a tough sell sometimes.
Well, it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to educate and outreach and work on our outreach, because if you didn't know how to eat a garlic and Barrett was like, Shane, I love garlic, you got to try it. And you go, okay. And you just pop a clove before he tells you how to eat it. You'll be like, oh my God, this is repulsive. How do you love this?
Oh.
And Barrett's like, wait.
Yeah.
You're supposed to cook it. And then you let out the natural sugars and it's so delicious. And that's the thing, is that Americans still are eating essentially raw garlic. We have not learned how to cook with it, how to present it as food, how to integrate it into our food, and about the functionality of insect protein. And so even if you're eating it at Barrett's lab, with all respect to Barrett's culinary acumen, I don't know whether or not that's a fair way to judge 𝕁𝕠𝕔𝕚 and like what the possibilities are with it.
For sure. I'm 100%. And listen, I mean, I'll eat an oyster and like zooming out, there's not much grosser than eating an oyster if you're detached from the experience of it being that's what I'm saying. If you take something like an oyster and present it like, well, this is in a fancy restaurant in this expensive thing that you're putting, people are like, ooh, I guess I'll have this boogery thing slide down my throat. It's all that I'm trying to say is presentation is kind of important, and there's a lot of unnecessary mistaken mental barriers that people have from enjoying insects, which they should.
If they just realize most people like honey, and if they realize where it's been.
yeah, that's a very good point.
And Gene, especially Waldhonig, or forest honey, which is coming not from the nectar of flowers, but from the excreta of true bugs.
Yep.
Well, Gene, you bring up a great point, because I was quoted on NPR. They're like, I was like, what's so weird about eating insect protein if we already eat insect regurgitation?
Yeah.
Like, really, at the end of the day, it's like you think, and oysters filter hundreds of gallons of water.
Oh, yeah.
And then we like ruthlessly just shuck them while they're alive and slurp them down when they're alive. I mean, come on. There's,
Yeah, in my ecology class, one of my test questions has always been, you're eating a live oyster on the half shell. Are you acting as a carnivore, herbivore, or detritivore? Defend your answer.
What was that last word?
Detritivore.
What's that?
They feed off of decaying matter.
Oh.
And so, and it turns out it's all three.
Wow.
Oysters are decaying matter?
They've got decaying matter in they're processing it.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, right.
So it depends. You take the whole thing. You're eating the whole animal. You're not eating just a little bit of it. You're not cutting off taking the thigh meat off a chicken. You're eating it all.
Yeah.
All the organs, everything.